Hey team, it is 6:53 a.m. in beautiful Toronto, Ontario, Canada, which is where I live. And we're gonna get started. Alright? So the use case that we're gonna start working on for the update obviously is fetching or getting the project object that we're going to update and getting it by ID. Alright? So we're gonna obviously start with the same procedural style that we've been following in this initial section, just because this is, let's say, the section where I'm introducing you guys to the React flow of things. I promise in the next two sections where we're doing React work, we're going to move considerably faster, because I'm not going to have to stop and explain everything, because at that point you're going to be super familiar with things, and then I just have to really stop only to explain anything that's new or that's fairly complicated, right? Or it's more complicated. But you guys are going to start noticing patterns here. And that's great, because when you start noticing patterns, that's when you start moving faster and really understanding the flow. All right, so the first thing that we're going to work on is the types. And we need a type, for an action type, to get a project, okay? And just make sure that you take your time here. We're just getting a project, okay? Then we're going to go to our project reducer, and I'm just gonna close this, which, by the way, we have already included in our root reducer, okay? So nothing to be done there. And we're gonna go to our root reducer. We're gonna create a case for getting a project, and the case is gonna be literally get project, which I am going to auto import. Okay, so your imports should look like this: get projects, get project. Cool. Okay, so then I am going to wire up the case, which is to return the state and then return the project. Very important, project. Okay, this here, we're returning a single element and not the list. All right. So we're going to return the project from the action payload. Once this gets dispatched to this action from the, obviously, project actions. Okay, so take a look, make sure that this is wired exactly like this, and then we're going to move on to our project actions file, where we're going to start creating the API call. So here I'm just going to go below get projects, because I'm literally following the CRUD abbreviation to a T: create, then we read, then we update, then we delete. Okay, so again, export constant get project. All right, now this is going to take two parameters. It's going to take the ID, which is the parameter that we're passing on the path. We already talked about this in the previous lecture. And then we're going to take the history, just because once we're done redirecting, if we have any errors, then we're going to want to redirect to our dashboard. And then we're going to continue wiring our action here, dispatch. And this is all things that we've done, that we have already done at least once in the project, so you should be more than comfortable here. So I am just going to wire the happy path for now, and there's a good reason for it, and I'll show you once we are done at least getting the project onto the state. Await Axios get, and then I am going to open my Postman. By the way, and if I haven't said this, for the remaining of this section in which we're doing the CRUD operations for the project object, I'm gonna ask you to please have your server running, your Java, your Spring server running, and that you have a few projects in the database. Okay, so here we're gonna get the project by ID, and this is basically the syntax. And I think this is the first time that we're gonna wire, that we're gonna use backticks here. So remember, not single quotes, not double quotes. I'm talking about backticks, okay? Because we're gonna pass the ID parameter onto the URL path. And if we go back to Postman. Our case takes this URL here plus the ID of the project, the identifier of the project. Okay, so here we're just gonna do $, curly braces, and then we're gonna pass the ID. Okay, which is the same ID that we are getting from here, which we did in the last video. Perfect. Now, if this works, we're gonna dispatch to our store. Well, we're gonna dispatch the reducer with the action get project, and then obviously we're gonna pass it the data, comma, payload, and then res.data. Okay, basically the data that we get here. Okay, which is going to be obviously the project object. That's exactly what we're passing on to our reducer, and then this is what our reducer in turn is going to pass on to our state. I'm pretty sure that at this point you're getting the hang of this. Next thing that we want to do, and just to go back in the project item component, since we have a list, since we're going to have individual project objects, then here's where we're passing the identifier based on that we're extracting from each one of the project objects. I hope that makes sense. So, and then we're passing that onto here, and this is when we're actually making the API call. Okay, so now we want to go to our update project component, which is the star of the show, and then we're gonna start working on some imports. And this time around, I do wanna make sure that we have all the imports that we need. The first import that we're gonna bring is obviously our action, which is get project from, I think is one more, and you can do that slash, and that until you find the path that you're looking for. In this case, we're getting get project from project actions. Yes, get project. Perfect. Then we're going to import our prop types. From prop types. Why am I doing this? Sorry, guys. Maybe it's too early in the morning. Although I'm a morning person, so this is my I'm actually like, I do way better in the morning anyway. And then we're gonna import connect, right? Because we're going to connect our component to our store. And last but not least, we're going to import our class names, because we also have form validation here, and if somebody tries to pass in bad data, it should come back here. Although yes, it should actually we should actually get those errors there. Okay, cool. All right, so now that we have that in place, all we're gonna focus on now is that when we call the form, we actually get the object in the state. We're gonna get this export default from here. This is what I did. I never refactored this when I created the component, so I'm just gonna do it now. This is why you see me take it from here, and we've been doing this over and over again. And I'm literally gonna copy paste this. Just doing the safe base on the safe. Just to be on the safe side. I just want to copy the name. Perfect. All right. So now that we have all this, we want to connect this to the store. So we're gonna surround this by parentheses. Then we're gonna use the connect function that we just imported. We're gonna pass it null for now, and then we're going to open curly braces here and bring our function, which is get project. We're getting a single project. Cool. Right. Then the next thing is going to be the prop types, and it's going to be update project dot prop types. And again, this is an object, And for now, we want to get the project, which is a prop type function that is required. The last thing before we go on and check if we have this on our component state is going to be the lifecycle hook component did mount, and this is not the first time that we're using this. Basically, this is the second time, and this is what we wanted for it to happen when we load this component, and it's that we want to actually load that project that we're trying to get from the database. Now for this, again, this .props.getProject, which is the function that we're going to be invoking, and then this function takes an ID, and then it takes this .props.history so that we can do a redirect. Okay, so now this is where things are going to get a bit interesting, and this is something that you've never seen before, at least not on this video. How do we get this ID? What ID am I talking about? I'm just going to backtrack real quick. I'm talking about this parameter that we said should come on the path. And I'm also talking about when you go to the project item, I'm talking about the project identifier that we're passing as a parameter in the update project path. How do we get that from there? So that I can really explain to you how we are doing this, I'm just going to start my server, and then I'm going to talk for a little bit. So if you remember, and I've said this repeatedly, yes, that's fine. That is fine. And I've said this repeatedly. Whenever we render a component from using React Router DOM, then this passes a bunch of parameters. A bunch of props, a set of props, to be more specific. That's where we get the history from, but we also get params from it. So that's exactly where we're going to extract our ID from. So we're going to use this structure in here, and we're going to say, for now, let me fix this for now, because I really want to show you what I mean before going too deep into it. Okay, so here's the dashboard, and we're gonna click here, and actually before we do anything, go to inspect, and please open your React Dev tool. Well, let's just make some space here. When we click here, this is going to pass some props to this component. As you can see here, this is completely true. And I'm just gonna stand on the update project, and you see that we get the get project, which we already worked on. We get the history, which allows us to push to or redirect, and then we get match. Now match contains the parameters, and here it contains the parameter ID that we passed onto the URL or to the path, basically. So this is exactly where we need to go to extract our parameter from the route, and we're gonna be using this parameters heavily once we start setting the relationship with the backlog tasks and the project. And so we're gonna be using this heavily later on. Okay, so the way to extract this, since this is in our props, it's basically this .props .match .params. And again, if you don't know where the hell I got that from, no worries, I just want to show you again. And again, this is at the end. Once we're done with this section, I'm going to start moving a little faster, I promise you. I just really want to cater to those that may not have a whole lot of experience with React and Redux, because I don't want you guys to be confused and then be frustrated and then leave the course and not finish it just because you're stuck. No, I really want you to understand this, and I want to enable you to build your own projects too. That's my sincere hope for you. we go to the update project component, and again match params, and then the ID which we are structuring here, right here. Okay, with this in place, when we open our update form, we should, if I did everything correctly, we should see our project object in our state, and hopefully that makes sense. Now let me just take a look here, because I just want to make sure that that I did everything correctly. Oh, I know why. So right now I did a little test behind your back, and when we come here to the update project form, we should have that project here, but we don't. And I think I know why. I think we need to obviously do our map state to props, and then actually extract this. So I'm just gonna do some more wiring up here, because we don't have that as a prop right now. Okay, so we're gonna do our map state to props right here in the connect. Map state to props, and then we're gonna pass it the state, then parentheses and curly braces, and then for now I'm just gonna do project, and this I am getting from the state dot project. Okay, and at this moment you should be super familiar with this, but just for you to be super clear, project, this is a root reducer, right? Project, this is our project reducer dot project. Okay, dot project here. Hope that makes sense. And then once we have our map state to props, we're gonna pass the rest of parameter here in the connect. Map state to map state. Oh, sorry, bad JavaScript. There you go. Then we're gonna also pass it as a prop type. It's project prop types. Obviously, we need a comma here. Is required. So now we have this in place. I think we should see something different in our application, and we're gonna find out together. And there you have it. This is project test 1, which is a project that we clicked on, and then if we click on the other project, let's say test 3, then that is the project that is loading on our component state. That's why we need to map state to props, so that we can actually see it on the component state. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Whenever we're testing things to make sure that they're on the state, we need to wire all of this up and make sure that we have the prop type of the component or the object that we want to see on the state, that we have mapped this, that we have the action that takes it, that we pass the state to props here, and then that obviously we do set up how we're going to mount this component. In this case, we're going to grab the ID from the path, and then we're going to load it. Okay, so this is where I'm going to leave things now, just because we did touch a lot. And then in the next section, then we're going to start extracting this and actually loading the form with the update information. Okay, thank you very much. I'll see you in the next one.